This is London, a city where you now need a six-figure income just to stand at the starting line of home ownership. Back in 2000, the average buyer earned a salary of £44,000, enough to just about scrape into the market. By 2024, that figure has exploded to £125,000, not because locals tripled their wealth, but because the market forced things upwards, year after year. In that time, house prices have jumped 280%, however wages have only risen half as fast, and that has a simple implication. The typical home in the capital is now officially unaffordable for everyone. Housing economists use a benchmark, 5 times your annual salary. Anything higher is considered unaffordable. London blew past that threshold long ago, and now sits at a whopping affordability ratio of 13.5. The top 10% of earners, those making over £90,000 a year, face a house price-to-income ratio of about 5.8. For the lowest earning 10%, that ratio jumps to more than 34. Hackney, one of the most affordable parts of the city, now has an average home price close to £600,000. A single buyer would need to earn over £100,000 just to get a standard mortgage, while the typical salary across the capital is only around £49,000. This outcome didn't come from nowhere. To understand how we reached a point where an average income can't buy an average home, we need to go back in time. In the early 2000s, house prices and wages increased at roughly the same rate. Buying a home was getting harder, but it wasn't yet impossible. The market felt predictable, almost stable, but that sense of balance was about to vanish.
The stock market is now down 21%.
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
Almost instantly, the market seized up. Prices fell, confidence evaporated, and mortgage options disappeared. For a brief moment, it looked as though London's property boom had reached its limit, but the collapse didn't last. As the economy stabilized, the government and the Bank of England did everything they could to restart growth. Interest rates were slashed to levels the country had never seen before. Mortgages at 1 or 2% suddenly became normal. Borrowing felt painless. Buyers returned, investors returned, and the city entered a 12-year experiment with ultra-low interest rates, a period that would transform London's property market more profoundly than anything before it. What began as an emergency measure quietly became a foundation of a new housing reality, one where debt was accessible, cash was king, and ordinary buyers slowly found themselves pushed to the sidelines. As borrowing became cheaper, something else began to transform the property market: foreign money. Overseas investors poured into prime districts like Kensington, Chelsea, and Belgravia, snapping up properties that suddenly looked like bargains in a weak pound Britain. And once the top end of the market took off, everything else followed. Cash-rich buyers pushed up values in zones 1 and 2, and those price rises rippled outward, first into surrounding areas, then across the entire capital, and eventually throughout the southeast. Properties that once seemed attainable were quickly lifted out of reach. Over time, ownership shifted to the wealthy, not because locals stopped trying, but because they were competing in a market driven by global capital rather than local wages. As a consequence, people started looking further out. As more people were priced out of their own neighborhoods, demand spilled into the outer boroughs. Places that were once considered affordable, Waltham Forest, Enfield, Barnet, saw prices climb rapidly. Even the affordable boroughs demanded incomes most people will never reach. Eventually, the market hit a wall. Over the past decade, London house prices have risen by just 13%, and once you factor in inflation, that's actually a fall. On paper, that should make things easier. Lower real prices should mean better affordability. But that isn't what happened. Even as prices stagnated, demand didn't disappear. In fact, it grew. London's population hit a record 8.95 million in 2023, more people than ever trying to live in a city that was already struggling to house the ones it had. The demand was still there, but the ability to buy wasn't. Higher mortgage stress tests, tighter lending rules, and bigger deposits meant buyers were locked out even as prices stopped rising. So the market froze. Homes stop selling, borrowing becomes harder, and buyers are pushed into renting. driving rents to the highest levels the capital has ever seen. A series of policy shifts in the last 10 years have only made the slowdown worse. It began with stamp duty reforms that pushed up the cost of expensive homes. Then came extra taxes on second properties, tighter buy-to-let rules, and the phased removal of mortgage interest relief. Individually, these policies might not seem dramatic, but together, they changed the entire maths of buying a home in London. Suddenly, it became more expensive to buy, harder to invest, and riskier to be a landlord, especially in lower-yield areas where the margins were already thin. Investors stepped back. Landlords left the market altogether. The result is gridlock. Too few buyers, too few sellers, and no incentive for either side to move. But the real choke point isn't the market at all, it's bureaucracy. The city simply isn't building. Construction work for just 1,200 new private housing units started in London in the first quarter of 2025, the lowest since 2009, and just 5.5% of the city's quarterly target. In 23 out of 33 boroughs, nothing has started at all. The city needs 88,000 new homes every year. Recently, it has averaged just over 38,000. With supply this low, the outcome is inevitable. Prices don't fall because too few homes are being built to change anything.
What we're announcing today, me and the Mayor of London working together, is a package that is designed to get London building again by lowering the costs for developers so we get spades in the ground and start to build the homes that Londoners need to live in.
Developers know the economics don't work. Buyers aren't in the market, investors have stepped back, and the cost of construction has soared. This means projects get shelved, postponed, or cancelled, removing yet another future pipeline of supply.
Empty, unused and unavailable for those who need them. Amid a national housing crisis, in England, almost 34,000 council houses are boarded up and closed down.
This is how the shortage becomes self-perpetuating. The fewer homes built, the more expensive the existing ones become. And the more expensive they become, the harder it is to justify building anything new. All of this is happening in a climate where confidence is already running thin. Buyers are not only hesitating because of expense, but because they don't trust where the market, the economy, or the government is headed. Taxes, regulation, living costs, they all feel unpredictable. And when confidence disappears, the market freezes. The government have tried to jumpstart things, longer mortgages, higher income multiples, tweaking lending rules, but none of it has changed the fundamentals. Prices remain too high, supply remains too low, and the cost of building new homes is still rising. So, people are leaving London, not for bigger gardens or quieter towns, but because they've run out of options. Life beyond the M25 may mean fewer late nights, fewer job opportunities, and longer commutes. But for many, it's the only route left to owning a home.